So I think Simon is still awake. Simon, are you with us?
Yep, still here. Hello, everyone. So up next, I'm delighted to say is Kate Brown. I've known Kate for quite a long time in the community. She's an active member of the Sports Biz Sunday community. And it's with great pleasure that I'm going to hand over to Kate to talk about Tableau Prep. So Kate, over to you.
Great, thanks, Simon. Good morning or afternoon or evening, depending upon where you're at. So I am going to share my screen. And so what I'm going to talk today about is Tableau Prep and how I use this. I'm sorry, is there a way that I can get this? This is a little different for me. Okay, so I'm going to talk today about Tableau Prep, how I use it, why I use it, and then we're going to walk through a quick example of building a prep, a flow on the fly. So I'm Kate Brown. I am a data visualization manager with Comcast, and I work in their learning and development organization. Comcast is a large telecommunications company based in the United States. I've been using Tableau Desktop for just about 4 years, and I've been using Prep since it was released last April, and I also did some beta testing of Maestro. And I've used or dabbled with several different prep tools, including Alteryx, Trifacta, and Nime over the course of a few years to try and see what works the best and was the easiest to use for the right price. When I'm not working with data, I'm on the golf course, or as the case is right now, wishing I was on the golf course. Got about a foot of frozen snow on the ground, so hopefully that melts soon. And I also love to read. You can hit me up on Twitter. I'm at @KateBrown_5. And I've got a blog that's called Fairways and Viz, where I'm also blogging about I think earlier Carl and Jonathan presented their prepping data community activity. So I'm also blogging about my solutions to that on the blog. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about why I use Prep and my need for Prep, and then some unexpected benefits I found along the way. So my current data ecosystem is an Oracle database, Teradata, Excel, and CSV files. I'm primarily Oracle, Excel, and CSV. I only have select access to my Oracle database, which means I can't create tables, import any files, or create any views. So it's a little restrictive in how I can work with my data. And I needed a way to be able to combine these data sources and generate aggregated data for my Tableau dashboards. So luckily for me, Prep was released right after I started in this position, and the timing couldn't have been better because now I had a place that I could do all of this. Some of the unexpected benefits I've found over using Prep is that really it's become my go-to for any ad hoc requests. I'm using it a lot more than for just generating Tableau sources. I'm using it if I need to just kick out a quick file for someone, if I need to do any sort of joining and just a quick analysis, I'm going to use Prep for it because I find it so easy to use. I also prototype complex SQL queries in Prep first. And what this allows me to do is really understand what is happening with my SQL in a visual way. And I can make adjustments very quickly on the fly and identify any join issues or identify any anomalies that I need to account for in my query. So it's really saved me a lot of time when I need to build something to bring it into Prep, understand and see what's actually happening with it in Prep, and then go back and have my query. It's also helped us expand the number of people on our team who can handle data requests. We have a number of folks who aren't SQL savvy, but they know a lot in Excel, and they really want to build upon their data skills and start to get better at using data, pulling data, and manipulating data. So it's helped me teach them how to do some of these activities. And it's also, I found, is helping me teach them SQL. So we can bring something up in Prep and we can do a join and we can see what it looks like. And then I can flip over to Toad, which is the tool I use to query Oracle, and we can write out a simple SQL query. So I can say, this is what it looks like in Prep, and here's how you would do it in SQL. So it's helping us to start to build more data skills within our team, which has been great. So now I'm going to just I pulled out a few things that you can do with Prep that I think are great. And most of these you'll see are going to be with the click of a mouse or right click, but you can change field types really just with a click of a mouse. You can reshape your data by pivoting rows to columns and columns to rows. You can scaffold your data to create records when they don't exist. You can exclude or keep values with a simple right click. You can group values and clean them by using spelling, pronunciation, or common characters. You can edit values on the fly. You can remove letters, numbers, or punctuations with the click of a mouse. One of my favorites is that you can create a union that has a different number of columns. You can merge fields with drag and drop. You can see mismatched values very easily with your different join types. You can join multiple data sources with ease, and you can see anomalies with the data profiles and explore those anomalies with a click of a mouse. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into Prep, and we are going to build a Prep flow on the fly. So one of the first things that I built with Prep for my current group was a Tableau dashboard that allowed us to see what a trainer's schedule was. So how many hours they were booked for a day, when they didn't have anything scheduled, and what the details were for that information. So I've mocked up some fake data, so none of this is real. And just to walk through the concept around how I built it, and then show some of the cool things that you can do with Prep. So for this example, I've just got my data in Excel. I've already set my connections. So I'm just going to bring my data into the flow. So I've got my course data, I've got my instructors or my trainers, and I have a dates file. And the first thing that I know that I need to do is I need to show every instructor for every day whether or not they have something in my course data. So what I need to do is scaffold my data. Now I can look down here and see, okay, in my data source, I've only got one field and it's called date. And then if I look at my trainer data, I've got two fields. I've got the ID and the name. So I don't have any field to join on between these two, but I can easily create a field to join on. So I'm just going to click on the plus. I'm going to add a step, and I'm going to come into my trainers, and we're going to create a calculated field, and I'm going to call my field join. And I'm just going to put the letter A in here. And now I'm going to do a join off of A. And so now I have that in my trainers, and I'm going to also create that in my dates. And we'll call this A. And now what I can do is join these together. So I'm going to grab my dates one, and I'm going to drag that up to my trainers, and I'm going to join. And now automatically Prep has realized that I've got a field in each one of these sources called join. So it's going to set my default join on those fields, which is great. And then down here, I can see that it's going to default to an inner join. But really what I want is I want all of my, actually this is going to work, an inner join, because now I'm going to have a row, I'm going to have a date for every trainer. And if I hit the plus symbol over here and add a step, what I can do is come over here and I can see I've got two fields called join from each of my sources. I've got my dates and I've got my trainers. So now let me just click on one trainer. And if I do that and I scroll down, I can see I've got a date for every, I've got a record for every day for this year for each of my trainers. Now, some other things that I like to do along the way is you're going to see, you know, the names are just going to default to clean 1, clean 2, join 1, clean 3. I like to rename these, so you can just right click and rename. And I'm going to do create, join. And then I can also add a description. So this creates a join field. What this allows, and why I really like renaming and using the descriptions, is because we'll share flows across our team. So if I'm out and something needs to get run, or someone's gonna take a look at what I did, if I add the instructions and the descriptions in here, they're gonna have an understanding of what I'm doing in all of these steps. So now over here, I've got my data set. And now what I need to do is join this in to my trainer information. So I'm going to grab my course information and I'm going to drag this over to my join. And now you can see it's going to default to join on my trainer ID. And again, it's going to default to an inner join. But what I really want is, let me just rename this. I'm going to call this trainers with dates. What I really want is I want all of my trainers and only the records that match. So I'm going to change my join type. And now I've got an outer join. And Simon, I'm just going to pause to see, are there any questions in the QA or in the chat so far?
So Kate, there is one, but it's probably better for the end. So nothing
great.
so far what you've gone through yet.
Okay,
But
so if anything comes up that, yeah, if anyone has any questions on what I'm showing, you know, feel free to interrupt me and I can go back to it. So now I have my combined data set, and what I can do is add another step. And then I can start actually kind of taking a look to see what I've got. I can play around with my data. I can remove some fields, and we're going to go through and do a couple of things. So right away now I know I don't need these join fields, right? They're of no value to me other than getting my join. So I'm just going to right click and remove the fields. And let's see what else we have. Down here, I'm guessing I've got a trainer ID because in my data set for my courses, I have a trainer already assigned to that. I just jump back over here. You can see I've got a trainer ID field here. So I've got two trainer IDs. Love the live demo, right? Come on, Prep, you can do it. I just want to make sure I'm removing the right trainer ID. So I'm going to remove this one because that comes from my course information. So I know I don't need that. We have our date field, which is going to be from our calendar join, which is the date field that I'm really going to want to use because I know I'm going to have a record for each day there. So what I can do is I don't necessarily need these date fields anymore. So I can remove these. And actually, what I need to do is also fix my join type because right now I'm just joining on trainer ID. And what I really want to do is I want to make sure that my date corresponds here. So I'm going to do is my date. And what's neat is in these joins, you've got options for how you're going to do your join. So I'm going to say my date from my initial date field is greater than or equal to my start day. And I'm going to say my date is going to be less than or equal to my end day. And then if I jump back over here, that hopefully should cut down on the number of rows and the spinning that we were seeing. So I've got my date field, which is what I'm going to use in my calendar example. I've got my course information, my type. Come on, Prep. So when this populates, what I'm going to show you is a couple of the things that I want to be able to filter on is, one of the ones that I want to be able to filter on is I've got a flag that says whether a course was canceled or not, and I've got a type flag. And I want to, in Tableau Desktop, if I filtered on the canceled flag and I use that yes or no, it's going to remove any field or any record for a day that I don't have anything scheduled for. So what I can do in that canceled field is I can actually say that my nulls, which are going to show up for the days that I don't have anything scheduled, I can group my null in with my no, and then when I'm looking for non-canceled, it's going to show up in that. The other thing that I can do is in my type field, I'm going to have values that are going to say I'm either training a course or I'm going to have a value that may say something like I'm doing preparation work or I'm on vacation. If it's null, I can also then right click on that null that's showing up, and I can edit that value and say that I'm free during that time. And then when I have a filter for that, you can see that I'll have free in there. And then it allows me to show a blank for that day. So I apologize that this is not working. It worked earlier because I've tested it out a number of times. So I apologize for that. Let's just give it another minute or so and see if it works. Are there any questions so far?
Yeah, you're getting quite a following, and there are a few questions.
Okay.
So one of the ones we can ask, Rodrigo did suggest, by the way, sometimes he said that prep gets a bit hangs, so potentially he said you might want to save it and reopen it, and it might kick it back into life.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But one of the questions for you is from Brittany, who said, how does Prep compare to Alteryx?
So they're different. They're absolutely very different tools. There are some things that you can do the same. There are some cleaning steps that are similar, some joins. Prep doesn't write out to a database. There's no spatial tools. There's no built-in predictive analytics tools in Prep. So if you're not doing those types of things, and really what you're doing is cleaning and aggregating, Prep is a great solution. I loved Alteryx. I used it for a number of years. I thought it was a great tool. Not having a database to write back to, I don't do any spatial work either. So for me, the cost was prohibitive to try and get an Alteryx license versus now, we've got Prep included with our desktop creator license. So it comes at a great cost, and it was hard for me to justify it. So, I think with everything in, data world, it depends on what your need is. I think Alteryx is great. I just think, one example I've used is I don't need the Range Rover to take the kids to hockey practice when the Honda Pilot works just fine. So Alteryx was a little bit of overkill for me.
Cool.
Anything
Thanks,
else?
Kate.
Okay. Awesome.
So there are a couple of other ones, but if you want to carry on, we can pick them up at the end.
All right. So what I can do here, like I said, on this type, what I can do is right click on this, and I can edit the value, and I can just type in, instead of my null, I can call this type as free. And if I want, I can group my null and my no together, and I can right click on these. Give it a minute to catch up. And I can group these. And now what you're going to see in my changes pane over here are the changes that I'm making. So what's great about the changes, if all of a sudden I realize, you know what, I removed this field, but I actually still need it, I can just come over here and click on the X, and it's going to remove that, and it's going to remove the remove and add it back into my flow. So you've always got a record of any changes that you have over here. The other thing I can do, just like we looked before, is I can click on my details instead of my summary view here. And I can right click on my null, and I can edit that value and populate it with a 0. So now I have a record of 0 hours for those ones that are free. And if I want to double check that, I can come over and click on free, and you're going to see that my class hours are all at 0. So it gives me some opportunity, to come in here, manipulate the data how I want to. This is very simple, clean view of it because a lot of my data has already been done. But now I've got a data source that I can either publish out. So if I wanted to output this, I've got some options where I can output it either as hyper TDE CSV, or I can publish it as a data source to my Tableau server. So this was really a quick view of how you can do some scaffolding of your data and how I used it to generate that data source. If we have a few more minutes, do we have a few more minutes, Simon, or I'm actually done, right? 20 minutes?
You got a couple of minutes,
Okay.
and we've got a few questions as well. So whatever.
Sure, so we'll go through those.
Okay. So question from Charlie from the community. He says, what feature are you most keen to see added to Prep in a future release?
I think what I'm really waiting for is an index or row ID feature. So we can do some sorting and we can do some top 10s. I'm really waiting for that. I think that will be a huge win when we get that in there. That's probably my #1 right now. You know, what I loved, one thing that I did love about Alteryx was the multi-row formula. So I'd also love to see that.
Cool, thank you. And you clearly have struck a chord with people because I've got another 2 or 3 yet for you. So another one for you. Do you use Prep to create data for people who don't use Tableau?
Yes.
And if so, how do you save the data out?
Yep, so I do that all the time. That's really one of the unexpected or unanticipated things that I found with Prep was that there's a number of stuff that I do that never makes it into Tableau. So I may get a list of 100 people and I need to say, did these people complete a specific course? I can just import that list of 100 people here, join to my Oracle database, run it, and then I'll export it out as a CSV, and then I'll probably clean it up a little bit in Excel and send that off to them. So it's really been, I was kind of surprised when I started using how much use I found for it for non-Tableau, you know, things that were never going to end up in Tableau. You know, another way that I do it too is really to compare. So if our database team is making a change to a table and I need to validate that the change is right, I can join our QA and production environments in here and compare them just to make sure that the change is actually right. So.
Awesome. So another one from Tracy. Can we schedule Tableau Prep yet?
Yes. Yep. So you can use one of 2 options. So there is a desktop scheduler option with the task scheduler on your computer. And there is also the new Prep scheduler tool, and the name of it's escaping me right now, that works with your server. So for me, I'm probably going to use the desktop scheduler because we're not at a place where we're going to have that add-on for our server yet.
Cool. And last couple of questions. So these are a little bit more techy. So Mitchell asked, is it possible to get a Prep Conductor trial license to use in a production environment?
That I don't know, but I would definitely look at Tableau's website or reach out to Tableau for that. Cool.
And last one from Rodrigo. He asks, what are the minimum specs on Windows to run Prep?
Rodrigo, it's on Tableau's website. I don't know off the top of my head what those are. You know, there have been, I will say that I've run into a couple of weird issues. Usually when I start Prep up the first thing in the morning, I'll get an error that it can't load. But I have sent some log files over to the Prep team, and I know that they're aware of that issue and have been looking into it. So I would suspect that they're going to have a solution for that issue at first. But if you are concerned, I know that Tableau does have the recommended specs on their website.
Cool, thank you, Kate.
Awesome.
So I think that brings a close to all the questions. Thank you for an amazing talk, for giving everyone an insight into how you use Prep.
Great, thanks so much. Have a good day, everyone.
Cool, thanks everyone. So on that note, next up we have the world famous Ravi from London, sports extravaganza, but he will actually be talking about data literacy. And on that note, from me and from the little Aussie mascot that we've got in the room, I just wanted to say good night because I'll be calling it a day and handing back over to Sarah, Lorna and Nye.
Thanks, Simon. Yeah, so we've got 6 minutes until Ravi, so we're just going to have a quick break and we will be back very shortly.